back to the SDG9 breakout session. When we volunteered, and I welcome as me, and all the colleagues and the panelists, when we agreed to do this breakout session, we were really trying to figure out what is the silver lining that unify industrial development, sustainable industrial development, innovation, and sustainable infrastructure. I think that a number of speakers today have stressed the importance of economic growth and therefore industrialization, but certainly an inclusive and sustainable industrialization. And also Ahmed say today we've never been so connected, but yet the issues that affected us are very interconnected. And I think that if that is true on a negative aspect of the issues are so interconnected and so difficult to face, it's also true that the solutions are so interconnected, and therefore all the SDGs are so interconnected. In fact, if we think of the SDG number 9, I truly believe that it's one of the most complex one, and one of those that can benefit automatically all the others. And therefore we're trying to see, okay, what is the silver lining, what is the element that really unify all these three important aspects. Well, we believe that industrialization and therefore private sector development is really led by people, by inspired entrepreneurs that try to find a solution for complex issues. I am very, in the last few years, we've been engaging in how do we make sure that we support young entrepreneurs, how do we support private sector development in a meaningful and sustainable manner. Well, the model I think, well, at least what we have tried and applied in the recent years, it's a complex, it's a putting together different actors. Of course, the private sector, of course, entrepreneurs, but also the state and the government's playing a role to create an enabling environment and the policy framework that can allow and permit entrepreneurship to flourish. And certainly the most interesting and dynamic social groups that we notice are entrepreneurs with a social scope. That, in fact, we're going to discuss today what it means to be a social entrepreneur. But before I go there, a number of examples are very evident of this new approach. So bringing the private sector to work very closely with the public sector, where the UN can play both a facilitator role, but also an expertise role, where we can bring expertise and sustainable approaches. In fact, I'm very happy to see my good friend, the Minister of Youth and Sport from Serbia, and this is one of the countries where we're actually launching such an initiative. We're actually focusing on building the capacity of young people through skill development, but also building the capacity of young entrepreneurs to be the change maker and to be the new engine behind sustainable development. So thank you for being with us, Excellency.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to spend a few words on
No, thank you. But I don't know why you're sitting, because you're used to it when you're dressing to stand.
Yeah, I know. I always told you that when I speak, I like to stand. So, the focus on entrepreneurs, but what if entrepreneurs have a mandate, have a passion, have a dedication to resolve the most complex society problems or issues? And this is what we're really going to discuss today. What if we give a social group like entrepreneurs or social entrepreneurs the capacity and the instrument to be able to make a positive and sustainable impact? So the discussion today, and I'm very happy I'm about to introduce an incredible number of inspiring young leaders and experts. But before I move there, I would like to give the floor to Miro, another very good friend of mine and an incredible person, and I'm sure that people that know him can agree with me. Because Miro was organizing with me an event in Vienna that took place just a few weeks ago, and I see some of the students at the San Joe University that participated in that event. And a number of discussions already took place in Vienna. So we basically prepared a little bit the ground for this meeting today. And I think that we managed to capture a few very interesting points in Vienna. And maybe, Milo, you can give a little bit of an overview of what happened in Vienna, we have about 5 minutes to do so, and maybe some key point elements that came out from the Vienna meeting.
Thank you very much, Matteo. Welcome, everybody. So, in Vienna, we've had a workshop titled Youth Empowerment for Agenda 2030, Actions through Social Entrepreneurship and Digital Social Currencies. And the basic idea is that as we have these millions, hundreds of millions of young people who are out there in the world, looking at the global challenges increasing, caring for their future. They are ready to take action, they have ideas, they have entrepreneurial spirit, but how to build a systemic solution that really documents what these people are doing on a global scale, assesses the impact regarding contribution to the SDGs, and also connects these young people with resources, incentives, so that they can have a rewarding and meaningful contribution to the Agenda 2030. And here we've discussed in Vienna this concept of social entrepreneurship, where we really look at the public added value on local and global level, trying to operationalize it, trying to build the institutional and technological infrastructure on local and global level, so that really these activities are documented, assessed in a trustworthy and reliable manner, standardized manner, and that we really then build a marketplace, an agenda marketplace, where young people can sell certified SDGs impact to different sources of funding. The Green Climate Fund, there will be $100 billion every year from the year 2020 onwards in the developing world. And there's the Giving Pledge money from philanthropic sources. 130 billionaires families have pledged to give back to society half of their wealth. So there are $400 billion there. But how to connect these big pots of money with these small activities of small and micro social entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs on the ground. And we have there very specific suggestions, and social entrepreneurship and digital social currencies are the key enablers. In Vienna, we have then also, we've had more than 100 participants. The Secretary General Special Envoy on Youth has been with us, not on youth, on youth employment. And these social entrepreneurs and young people there, they said they want to work on this topic together. We have created a community. We have put together 10 points action agenda, and Matteo will tell you probably more about this. And this here is somehow bringing the momentum from Vienna here to the global stage, and we really want to become a leader for the promotion of social entrepreneurship connected with the Agenda 2030, and also in building up the technological and institutional infrastructure to do so. And the term we use there is an Agenda 2030 marketplace.
Thank you, Milan. I know it's an awful lot of information, but one question that I want to bring to you, because we've been reflecting. So, who is really the only social group that, if you think about it, have the capacity and the opportunity to influence and work throughout the spectrum of all the SDGs? And the answer to us is there's only one group that can do that, and these are social entrepreneurs. And that's why we're focusing so much, and that's why we're building this narrative of social entrepreneurs, because if you reflect, they will be able to operate throughout the spectrum of all the SDGs. But it's not as easy, it's not as immediate, so we have to find ways and mechanisms to measure and to assess the impact of what the social entrepreneurs can produce. Now, this brings me to the first panelist. I had the occasion to meet Varish just telematically or electronically a few days ago, but the few moments, the few minutes that we spent together over the Skype, we really connected. We really immediately understood that we were on the same page. So Varish is from Stanford University. There is a social group of social in Stanford University, beg your pardon. And beside that, he's himself a social entrepreneur. So I asked him to introduce yourself and also try to give us a little bit of a definition of what it means and what it is, social entrepreneurs or social entrepreneurship.
Thanks, Matteo, and thanks everyone for joining this session. So really briefly about myself, I grew up in Istanbul, Turkey, and did a lot of non-profit work growing up. Actually, my good friend Ahmet there supported me through those ventures and connected me to this session here. But then went to Stanford and has been actively involved with both social entrepreneurial and entrepreneurial there. Had the chance to see Silicon Valley from inside and also try to move Silicon Valley toward more social entrepreneurial side. But now that we are here, actually I want to do a quick survey with all of you. Who in the room believes that every entrepreneur is a social entrepreneur? Please raise your hands. No one?
I think every young entrepreneur.
Every entrepreneur.
There's a trend.
Okay.
So every young entrepreneur is a social
So
entrepreneur.
now let's do the second part. So who in the room believes that business is a significant force for good? Okay, great to hear that. I also agree with that because actually when you look at the largest impact interventions in the past few decades, economic reforms in China lifted more people from extreme poverty than anything else. So how is social entrepreneurship different than entrepreneurship and business? I like to briefly define it this way. Social entrepreneurship is not doing business with social good, it's doing business for social good. So in a little detail, entrepreneurs see financial market opportunities where they see inefficiencies, deploy business to change things, and measure the value of their business by the financial value generated. On the other hand, social entrepreneurs see a social problem and they deploy business as a tool to solve that social problem and measure the impact by a combination of social and financial results. But social entrepreneurship is not a new concept. It's been around for a while. Greg Dees defined social entrepreneurship academically in 1998. Bill Drayton at the same time founded Ashoka and started building a community of changemakers all around the world. Yet, I believe that it's going to be our generation that's going to take social entrepreneurship to its tipping point. Because we care about impact. We want to have a meaningful life. We want to work in office places where our work means something more. We want to invest in assets that focus on triple bottom line. Economic power and workforce is shifting. And it's shifting to my generation, our generation. And let me tell you something. We are more educated, we are more connected, and we are more equipped with technology to create change. We believe in scientific truths, and we are ready to rise up against alternative facts. We are not going to just ask for change, but we will be the change. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this introduction. I think that we're getting there. I think that there are elements that allow us to define better social entrepreneurs. Maybe let me see with you who got it straight. Who can tell me understand what social entrepreneurs or social entrepreneurship means after this intervention. I want to check if people.
Yeah, that's good.
I did.
Exactly.
Okay, we're getting there. People, of course, are shy. So the way I would like to structure today's discussion is not the usual one where I have all the panelists speaking and then engaging the audience, but I would like to start engaging you immediately and ask you to do the same from the audience. After your intervention, after each of the single panelists, I will ask you a couple of follow-up questions, and then I would really like that you do the same with our panelists. So the first question I have from you, just to understand a little bit better the concept of social entrepreneurship. So, are social ventures, social enterprises for non-profit ventures?
So, I hope we are all on the same page that social entrepreneurs are a subset of entrepreneurs. They have all the responsibility of entrepreneurs and even more. And when you think of an entrepreneur, it's their core responsibility to use all kinds of resources to achieve the maximum impact. So when it comes to the legal structure, social entrepreneurs should choose whatever legal structure makes more sense for them to generate more social impact. And both structures have their benefits and disadvantages. If you're a not-for-profit structure, you can apply to grants, you can get donations, you might get other benefits. Whereas if you are a for-profit structure, you can raise traditional funding sources, you can do impact investing, you can even have an exit after a successful venture. So there's no rule saying every social entrepreneur should focus on a not-for-profit venture. It's their decision in whichever structure allows them to do more.
Thank you. Now, you touch a point, you touch on an interesting point, which is the impact investment. Recently, we're seeing a growing numbers of philanthropies, foundation going towards impact investment. But what we're also seeing is that they're going towards impact investment, but expecting the market rate return. But if they expect the market rate return, can we call them impact investment?
That's a great question, and that's a big debate in the impact investment environment. And to briefly define, impact investment is investing in assets with expecting triple bottom line return, which is profit, people, and planet. So let's take a step back and agree on what impact means. Impact is not what our intervention actually created, it's what happened minus what would happen otherwise. That's your real impact. So let's assume of a company that has potential to generate a lot of profit, but also a lot of good. This company would likely get investment from traditional finance resources. And even if impact investor invested or didn't invest in that company will be able to raise money. So I believe that impact investors actually create the maximum impact while they focus on assets traditional investors will skip on. So assets where it will be lower than market returns or higher risk assets.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. It's much clearer for me, and I hope, and I believe also for the others. Now, let me open the floor for a couple of questions for Banish. We have one over there.
It's just a recommendation. Hello. There's a wonderful document that I discovered as a social innovator, I'll say that, from Stanford, and it's called Rediscovering Social Innovation. And everyone interprets and defines it actually in very different ways, but in this case it really differentiates between social entrepreneurship, social enterprise, and social innovation. And it's a wonderful article to read, to inform yourself and to think about how you fit into these structures.
Great, thank you. You know about it? I mean, you're
I read about it, but I think there's a good balance between sufficient terms to communicate and focus on creating change. And sometimes when academics want to sort out all kinds of details, we create so many terms that we lose communication.
Yeah.
So I would like to get social innovation, social entrepreneurship, and social enterprise all under one umbrella while we make today's discussion.
Right.
And if there are questions that I think need specific focus, I'll concentrate on it. But thanks for bringing that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes?
So if I could,
May I ask you to first stand up and then introduce
sure.
yourself? That'd be lovely, thank you.
So I'm from Singapore, with the National Youth Council and with the Asia Philanthropy Circle. So I just wanted to ask, we know that we want to find a counterfactual. We're talking about change that will happen anyway and the change that you make. I think the difficult part here is about quantifying it. So from your experience, how do you quantify social return on impact? So how do you define it, or rather, in other words, how do you define a successful social enterprise? And how do you know if A is better than B? Do you quantify it? Because a traditional company would use financial indicators, the bottom line. So how do you do that for a social enterprise?
So how do we measure impact in social entrepreneurship, if I understand correctly, right? And that's another field on itself, impact measurement in social entrepreneurship. There are a few good resources that are trying to create a generalized framework. B Labs is one of them, which also push for the Benefit Corporation framework in US. And to quickly touch on that, a C Corp is what we consider a traditional company. And at a C Corp, your responsibility is to maximize shareholder revenue. And even though there hasn't been any case with social ventures, theoretically a shareholder can sue you for not maximizing shareholder value. So B Labs is an organization that advocates for the new form of corporation called B Corps, benefit corporations, where you are not necessarily obliged to focus solely on shareholder value. But B Labs also advocating for this change created a great impact measurement metrics that you all can check it out. Also, what we've mentioned on the impact investment side, there is a group called Global Impact Investor Network that runs under World Economic Forum. And they also have a great list of impact measurement outlines. But at the end of the day, it's a mix of people, profit, and planet that leads to your measurement.
Yeah. Thank you. Maybe if I can build on what you were saying, and I think generally speaking, there's still a need to invest a little bit more in quantify and qualify the impact that social entrepreneurs have. Because I think a lot of narrative, a lot of money is invested in how do you develop indicators for impact investments, but very little on the impact of social entrepreneurs per se. And we're discovering that standards or common understanding of what it means to have to be social impact still needs to be worked and to be analyzed. And I think this is one of the recommendations that came out from the meeting in Vienna, and hearing of what we're listening today is still one of the areas that we still need to invest a bit more. Do I have another question? Yeah?
Hi, my name is Amar, and I'm from Sri Lanka. I do the Sri Lanka mission currently. So let me try to phrase this question as perhaps in the least jumbled way possible. You're from Stanford, of course, so I mean, you're very probably exposed to all the Silicon Valley stuff. And in this regard, would you not say innovation is a double-edged sword? In the sense that excessive innovation, yes, it will lead to enhanced benefits in the short run, enhanced productivity, enhanced employment, enhanced social benefits, right? But in the longer run, increased automation will lead to less jobs. The development of artificial intelligence will lead to even less jobs. Up to the point where many people, like leading theorists such as Elon Musk, kind of endorsing this theory of the universal basic income, where a large percentage of the human population will essentially be unemployed. So my question in the short run is, in like the shortest as possible, is how do you account for this double-edged sword, this negative impact of excessive innovation?
I think that's a great question, and I also studied AI at Stanford Computer Science, so I taught on these subjects quite much. But my personal view is that it's really counter-effective to try to stop innovation. It's more important to understand what that innovation will result in and how to distribute the wealth created in the most effective way possible. So we know that AI will take many jobs, automation will take many other jobs, and there will be many unemployed people, but also these changes will create a lot of wealth in the society. So if we can find ways to effectively distribute that wealth to people, and if we can find ways to use the talent of the people who are considered unemployed more effectively in the way areas where machines are not as successful, where creativity matters more than just physical menial labor, I think that can create a more impactful world than the world we are at today.
Thank you. I can take just one more before we move to the next panelist. Sorry, it was faster.
That's Go ahead, no problem. I'll ask later on.
Okay, please.
I'm Stephen Dupont from YMCA's in Australia, and at YMCA there in Australia we actually train and support many young social entrepreneurs, and we find it actually quite challenging because you have a lot of young people who want to have impact and start their own little enterprises, but you only have very few who create a sustainable operating model. So what would be your advice to those young people?
I think obviously we need to realize that all social entrepreneurs need to embrace the business skills and approach as diligent as business entrepreneurs to the problem they see. And it's not just about creating social impact, but it's also creating revenue and making it sustainable. So that the social impact is also sustainable, not just employing a few people today, but ideally employing hundreds of people in the future, really creating a lasting social change on the problem with funding.
Thank you. Now, I see that there is a lot of people over there squeezed in the corner. I don't know if you want to try to spread a little bit, maybe even here in the center. There's some chairs. Because I see every now and then some hands going like that. Now, before I move to the next panelist, I would like really to encourage all of you to tweet with the hashtag Youth2030, but also we're using the hashtag Youth Entrepreneurship 2030. This is the hashtag that we have used during the event. And this is an hashtag that is really gaining momentum. And there is an entire community, as Miro was saying, that is really debating and starting sharing information, documentation, and all relevant information about social entrepreneurship. So please share your view and share your knowledge through Youth Entrepreneurship 2030.
And the Facebook Live link to tweet out is in our Youth Entrepreneurship 2030 Facebook group. So if you go there, you can share live from our discussion today.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. Now, the next panelist is, I believe, the best professor that I ever know. I've seen her in action with her students, and not only she's a great professor, but she's also a great person. So Minna, you're from Finland. We were talking about wealth distribution. I think that Finland is the only country that is experimenting wealth distribution. We all really hope there is an experiment that will be successful. There is a lot of hope that humanity has in that. But Minna, you're an expert, you and with your student, you're an expert on social currency, especially digital social currency. Maybe can you tell us a little bit your work and also the work that you've done with your students?
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, I was just going to introduce myself, not as the young member of the panel, but the one coming from the country with universal basic income, at this experiment. And I know that experiment was created in a multi-stakeholder collaboration in a hackathon. So just saying. And I think that has to do with the kind of way of working we're doing here, and Matteo is so graciously hosting, in that we are collaborating together and trying to find these definitions and the common language. Me and my students who come from St. John's University in Queens, it's Catholic, essential Catholic, global, cosmopolitan, and very much oriented toward social justice. So we're not technologists. We're not business experts. We come from the field of sort of social justice sociology, especially sort of media sociology and international communication. But when we're talking about these sort of digital communities that are creating the landscape of our international communication today, I had kind of shied away from the idea of digital social currencies, because that to me sounded so technological and a field of technologists. So who knows what digital social currencies actually are? Oh, what are they? Can I hear your definitions? Yes. Yes.
So the best way to make things like Bitcoin and things like that, the digital currencies, we've actually always had them. Rewards programs, loyalty programs, they're all of them the digital currency, but more and more, particularly with the younger generation, you're seeing them as a way to really kind of answer the question, what's in it? Why do I take action? I get these currencies, I can earn points and then eventually cash that in for something that I enjoy. Essentially just digital money. But you can create it on anything. I think the key to the success of digital currencies is the idea that you're moving beyond just monetary value. You can create currencies based on rewards and things that are recognition, not necessarily just an exchange of wages, so to speak, and enable communities to use that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. You want to come and teach my class? So it was excellent, and I'm going to take it to a step further, although we are not technologists. I want to take it a step further because as sort of sociologists and studying development, what one hears everywhere in the world, and related to, of course, the SDGs, is the future of work. So not only entrepreneurial, but just in general the future of work. And increasingly you start to hear the word blockchain or peer-to-peer collaboration, technology-enabled peer-to-peer collaboration in this regard. And blockchain is a sort of a decentralized way of collaborating, if I may say so. It's used in value transfer, as you so rightly said, Bitcoin in terms of money, but it can be other kind of value transfer, for instance, transfer of records or identity records, for instance, or as you found out, land ownership records, health records. It could be used in sort of decentralized way of transferring money, for instance, for crowdfunding for projects. And of course, in our context, when we're talking about youth entrepreneurship globally, think about what we really need. You need some sort of access of money transfer in order to have a business. So while you're talking about the big principles of social entrepreneurship, there are some tools that we need, and this is just one example. So my students, who I'd like to introduce you to, Hallelujah Lewis, right here, please stand up, and Mia Ross, right here. They are the real experts. They did the research with 3 of their other colleagues, so they will fill in any specific questions. But I want to highlight why we're talking about this issue here. It's one of the technological tools that enables and empowers. Somebody, one expert from Silicon Valley in our Vienna conference said, blockchain is the way we all create. People create a computer so that we don't need a centralized agency, but we can act peer-to-peer in a transparent, reliable way. So I told you some examples. It's been used in healthcare, also instant remittances during crisis, and fundraising and access to financial transactions. And for instance, gender in some parts of the world is challenged. Are you allowed to have a bank account, and what is needed for you to open a bank account? Just as an example, very simple example. But what we really found out in our mapping project was this. We need more awareness building and support in understanding this rapidly developing field. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of digital currencies out there, started by different organizations. There are a lot of investing going around this. And then there are a lot of social development projects using these digital currencies. I believe the EU has created its own digital currency to do development work and transfer value like that. But there's so much information. There's no centralized sort of repository or source or a hub where we could find this information from the development sector, from the business sector, from different countries, different stakeholders. We need also more research to understand what works and what doesn't. And when we're talking about this in Vienna, somebody said, well, is this like, the late 90s and the internet? Like internet was going to democratize the world and, do this and do that and the other thing, and here we are. So can we be...
Some of us are here. Others couldn't make it.
Can we look at these kind of tools systematically and do some research and gather information and know what works? So I would like to call for sort of multi-stakeholders in this respect as well. We had a lunch conversation about one of the big issues around this, of course, which is the T word, trust. And you had a great example. Do you want to share it with us?
Sure. I was asking you about what are some of the challenges of using digital currencies, and maybe, especially in developing countries, what are some of the challenges of trust with this new technology that maybe people without bank accounts may not be familiar with?
And you had a great example of that.
Yeah, we're looking at the recent news with demonetization in India, and this contested issue, how the desire to be a cashless economy is quite far-fetched for a country, and there are challenges around that.
So clearly we need some sort of coordination and collaboration in this in order to harness the great sides of technology. Technology is never neutral, but the great sides, we need trusted sources, we need collaboration, and what organization better to do that than the UN?
Thank you, Mira. Now, when we think about digital currency, I think that everybody's mind goes straight to Bitcoin. And once you go to Bitcoin, the second thought that you have is like, okay, Bitcoin is used for good, but Bitcoin is greatly used also for bad. So there are some challenges that digital currency will pose and represent.
Absolutely, and that goes with this idea of creating a multi-stakeholder network or community using digital currencies for good. As we learned in Vienna, we had technologists there, we learned that anybody basically can create a digital currency. But a digital currency is worth only what a network is worth. So the more people you have there, the more secure, the more functional a digital currency or digital transfer of value can be. And so, in that sense, when we get good people together, when we get trusted people who trust that network, we can solve some of these problems. Mia and Hallelujah, do you have anything to add to that in terms of the risks and overcoming the risk?
Just from the point about research, I'll say that we didn't take a utopian approach. We just looked at the potential that it had. One of the sections that I was in charge of was addressing the issues and the risks of why perhaps countries would not want to implement a digital currency. But we also understand that it has the effect or the appeal that a larger member state is forcing smaller member states to, I guess, adapt their beliefs or their approaches, and that's not what it is. We also recognize that Bitcoin specifically is very attractive to those in the black market, but we also point out that Bitcoin does not have a monopoly over the market. So we are aware of the risk, and we, like Professor Mina said, we need to do research on how multi-stakeholders can invest in this process to create the blockchain where all of the members and all of the parties agree to this currency.
So there are some solutions to these challenges. Let me open the floor to some of the questions. I think, did I say Singapore again?
Singapore.
No, because I think one of the assumptions or one of the things that we might want to take a step back, one of the things that we need to be cognizant of is the fact that more people in the world don't have internet than those who have, and the fundamental assumption of digital currency is that people have access, because the very premise of Goal 9 is building infrastructure, and I think if we were to think about issues of regulation which are important in the future, I think it's even more important to think about how infrastructure will be transferred to countries, which I think we should be talking about as well. Because for instance, in Singapore, the penetration rate is 120%, so one person can have 2 phones or even more. But that's not the issue. I think the issue here is more fundamentally how do we get more innovation on the grid, and I think that should be something we should talk about.
We addressed the notion of access, the limitation of it.
Could you please?
Oh, no, I just said that we do address the notion of access. We know that there are many countries who do not have internet access, and that is a major difficulty in implementing.
Yes.
If I may here add also this question of internet access and access to technologies, that's really the best point here in the SDGs 9 breakout session, because it's about infrastructure, industrialization, and innovation, and really this task of building global, local, technological, and institutional infrastructure that makes the connection, and that really all these young people around the world get access to the internet, get access to the flows of resources. That's this global infrastructure that is needed, and this is really the beauty of this SDG 9, that this topic can be discussed here. And on local level, we are proposing, in the context of this Agenda 2030 marketplace, global challenges youth centers in every city and in every local communities, in partnership with the local authorities there, that would be a local level entry point for young people to get capacity development, get access to the internet, get access to technologies, and that should also fill in this.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I take these two and then please, women.
Yeah, please.
No.
Yeah.
Is this positive discrimination?
I was educated.
I think it was possible. So we're talking about a big development of, well, in the framework of the SDGs, that is focusing on developing the poorest of the poor from the poor. So how fast do you think that this development of, well, giving people access to internet, uptake of the digital currency will lead to, and will we achieve it within, the small frame of the 15 years we have for the SDGs, or is it something that we will, is this now first focusing on the infrastructure, giving people, living in an enabling environment, giving them internet, and then afterwards?
No, I don't have a simple answer, but I think we have to prioritize this. We have really these global goals, and we need a global community in which everybody is enabled to take action. And for this is really internet access is crucial. We have, together with the youth constituency in the UNFCCC process, we have started a COP22 call for resources for youth climate action, where we said the wealth holders of the world, these billionaires around the world, they should make resources available for youth empowerment, for Agenda 2030 action, and especially also these global challenges, youth centers, and the programs to empower the poorest of the poor to adapt to climate change and to engage also in climate change mitigation. And it is a social movement needed that will mobilize the philanthropic sources, but also the public sources, and prioritizing this kind of access issues and poorest of the poor issues. And it's not yet given that it will work, but we are working on creating a social movement also on this resource mobilization front so that it will function. It's also the demand side for youth Agenda 2030, social entrepreneurship needs to be developed. It's one thing is that young people do good things, but then we have to also to motivate those who have resources to buy these products and services. And this is social change. It's a paradigm shift needed of society, and together we can make it.
Thank you. We got another question there.
Yeah, so my name's Jared. I work with UNICEF on adolescent and youth engagement. I have a kind of obvious question, which is, given that money is very digital and crosses boundaries anyway, what are the advantages of the Bitcoin digital money as you're describing?
An excellent question. Transparency. Transparency. Think about the intermediaries that we now have transferring money. And many of us know that, for instance, in early stages of crowdfunding, it was very hard to do globally for small-scale project because countries wouldn't allow donations across for a foreign organization like that, a foreign website. Sorry, but so that is the key element of sort of blockchain technology. It's transparency and decentralization. Any transaction can be traced, any value transfer can be traced. Nobody can pocket anything.
So imagine, like, now the banks do not have to report where the money is coming from or where it's going. With digital currency, everything is transparent. Everybody knows from where it comes and where it goes.
Yeah.
I think that the last one, sorry,
We have an online question.
we have an online question. After yeah, let's start with the online question. The second time. The third time when you
Online, well, we have a couple, but I think relevant to what you just asked. He says, this is Okan from World Merit Australia. Austria, public procurement represents on average 20% of a country's GDP. How could blockchain be implemented in a public procurement to make it more transparent, as you just mentioned, and to work for all people in developing countries?
I do think, from the perspective of our research, we did not see any cases of that kind. We looked at very relatively small-scale development cases. I think what the question is excellent, but it implies sort of bigger policy development issues that actually we concretely looked at. I don't think that kind of experimentation has been done anywhere. I'm just saying that these things are being experimented at the sort of national and nation-state level. Estonia, did I mention it already? Estonia is experimenting with for instance, voting. So we see the US have some homeland security questions, but I'm not going to go there. But I'm just saying that there are different implementations in the national government level, and why not this?
And I think another element, we're talking about digital social currency because we want to find a sustainable manner to provide access to resources and finance to small-scale social entrepreneurs in a given country. So certainly there is a lot of research, a lot of studies on on digital currency, and I think some of them are already present on our Facebook page, because a lot of experts are already debating what function, what narrative, what literature is to be shared and spread. So if you're interested in this topic, please look at the Facebook page, which is Youth Entrepreneurship 2030, and there is a lot of material over there on that. Let me take the question from the gentleman.
Okay,
Sorry again.
you made it. I come from a country where we have 2 data centers for Bitford. But when we're discussing social entrepreneurship, by the way, I'm Brevet Javelidze, I'm the Deputy Minister for Sports and Youth of Georgia, which is country Georgia, not the state of Georgia. But here is the thing, but maybe I'm speaking about some basics, why the Bitcoin and this online currency is the best fit to the social entrepreneurship? Why do you think that they are